All righty. So if anybody is tuning in, we're actually a little early today. And I just want to say hello to everyone. We're getting ourselves organized. We're broadcasting through Zoom as usual, but we had a little glitch. And so we're also streaming on YouTube via Facebook. So just be patient while we get everything up and running. Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a few minutes to get organized with all these different platforms. So
yes, it does. It does.
But it's a chance to just relax.
When you think about it, though, it's pretty amazing that we can be in different parts of the world and we're all connected and we're all like, you know, live. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It is pretty amazing. I love hearing where people are from and what time it is where they're watching from.
Yes.
And what day it is. Sometimes it's not even the same day.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So actually, I'll ask people as they're, if anybody is viewing right now, if you want to share your location, because we've kind of figured out that people are watching not just in like South America, but really from all over the world. So we're kind of curious to see where our viewers are from. So if anybody's in, if you want to just respond in the dialogue box, your country, maybe your city and country. Hold on, I'm just checking here on Facebook. Let's see if we've got anybody. And for Zoom people, you'd respond in the chat box. Okay, so Kim, if you want to put your PowerPoint, that front page up, would be good. We are live on Facebook now. We are live on YouTube, and we are streaming also on Zoom. So,
all right. Hopefully everybody can find us who wants to find us.
Yes. So we're still a couple minutes away from 2 o'clock. So we're gonna wait. And I know a lot of people are rushing. And we also have people who watch in groups. So yes. Teachers that watch together. And I think that's kind of a nice way to view this because, you know, then you can have that discussion with your peers about, you know, how you could adapt this for your own teaching situation.
Yeah, I love that piece because you know best what your situation is and how best you can apply these ideas to your own classroom. So it's a great idea.
Exactly. Good. We'll just give people a couple more minutes.
Very loud outside my window today.
Is it?
Yeah.
We can't hear anything. Well,
okay. Excellent.
So it's a sunny day today.
It is. I have some blue skies and fluffy clouds today. It's probably about 29 degrees, so it's nice and cool for Paraguay and at this 29. Time of year. Yeah. If it's under 35, it's a lovely day.
That's crazy. Wow.
If it's over 35, it's also lovely, but no one is outside if they can help it.
Yeah. I mean, do people kind of like hunker down in the midday sun and just stay inside?
Well, you find the shade or you stay inside. Yeah.
So it's not sunny, really sunny yet here in Lima. I mean, the sun's been coming out here and there, but we've had a long gray, like winter, spring. Yeah. I mean, it is making an appearance every once in a while.
Okay, so, that's good.
And I hear it's very rainy up in the highland areas these days.
Yeah, I think we haven't gotten as much rain. People had been saying there was a usual rains, but we haven't had too much in the last couple of months.
do remember being there in Paraguay. When it rained, it was like scary rain. It was like a deluge, just like there were cars floating in the street.
Oh,
It
you
was
came at a
crazy.
really special time, I think. Yeah.
It was
So it rained heavily on Sunday, and as it was starting to rain, I was, yes, this is great. It's a beautiful, the storm coming in and wind. It was beautiful. And then it just kept raining. And I thought, okay, you can stop now. We don't need to have cars floating in the street.
all right. So I'm just checking here. We've got some people tuned in through YouTube. Let's see here. Okay, some more people are in. And it is 2, it's actually 1 minute after 2. So we are going to get rolling. So I want to welcome everyone to the December RELO Andes webinar series. I'm really happy to have today we have Kim Carroll. She's an English language fellow from Paraguay, and she's going to be talking to us about how to incorporate US culture in the English classroom. So Kim, welcome. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. Thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this month.
That's great. So I just want one thing before we get rolling. We have people tuning in from all over the world. So I was hoping that people could just put in either in the dialogue box if you're watching through Facebook or YouTube, or in the chat box if you're watching through Zoom, if you could just let us know where you're viewing from. So if you are viewing from Peru, just let us know your city and country. And if you're viewing from another place, yeah, just type in where you're viewing from, because it's kind of occurred to us. We have people watching from all over the world. So yeah, I'd like to know a little bit more about our viewers. Great. So Kim, would you like to tell us just a little bit about yourself?
Sure. While you all are doing that, I will tell you a little about me. I've been in Paraguay now since August, so a little over 4 months. And before that, I was living in the US. My hometown is Cleveland, Ohio, up here in the north part of the country on Lake Erie, where right now it's very cold and probably snowing. I need to check, but probably. I've also lived in Colorado for a few years, about 4 years. And for the last 20 years before moving to Paraguay, I lived in Greenville, South Carolina, which is this little red dot here in the south of the United States. And just so you can have a quick idea of what it's like there, we live close to the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. So we have some mountain areas to our west. And in the east side of the state, we border the Atlantic Ocean. So there's some lovely beach areas. That's about 3.5 hours drive from my city. And Greenville is my city. And here's a picture of it that I took on a particularly hot day in August. So there's not a lot of people out on the streets, but you can see that's the downtown area. So it's a small city, and it's a lovely place for the most part. And in the right bottom corner are my students that I had my last class in South Carolina before I came here. I generally teach adult immigrant students or expats who are moving to the United States for work or to live. And in this particular class, we had 20 students from 18 different countries. So it was the whole world in one classroom.
Wow, that's great. And I think it's so interesting that you have such a diverse population, because I think there's a little bit of a misconception in the US that we have a lot of diversity in our large urban cities, but also in suburban and rural areas, there's a diverse student population as well.
Yeah, and this class was particularly rural. It was about 45-minute drive from the city of Greenville. So yeah, there are people from all over the world throughout the country.
Great. Well, we have people, looks like we have people from all over the world tuning in here. We've got several people from Bolivia. We've got some people from Venezuela. We have someone from Surco here in Lima. We've got people in India. We've got somebody here in, looks like Pakistan. yeah, so we've had people tuning in from, oh, Paraguay. Okay.
Yay, Paraguay.
Yay. Yeah. Here we go. All right. Yeah. So we have people tuning in also from all over. This is great. Okay.
Wonderful.
So again, anybody who's joining us right now, if you just want to type in and let us know where you're from, that would be great. Okay.
Great, and welcome to all of you, and I'm very happy to spend this next few minutes with you all. So should we get started?
Let's go. All righty.
Great. So our topic today is talking about teaching culture in the English language classroom. So hopefully by the end of this time together, we'll be able to answer these 4 questions. What is culture? What are surface and deep culture? What materials or resources can I use to teach culture? And what activities can I use to teach culture? So that's where we're heading over the next few minutes. And I think we're going to start right away with a question for you all to answer.
Yes, so we do have a question for everyone, and people can respond again if you're watching through Facebook or through YouTube in the dialogue box and in the chat box if you're watching through, and actually you can click right on the link on the answer if you're watching through Zoom. So we're going to launch this poll, and this is about culture. So what is culture to you? Is it A, food? Is it beliefs, traditions, or D, all of the above? So go ahead and we'll give our viewers a minute to respond. So what does culture mean to you? Food, beliefs, traditions, or all of the above? Okay, we've got several votes coming in here on Zoom. Let's see, let's check our YouTube. Okay, and okay, we've got some responses coming in on Facebook. Okay. All righty. So let's see, a couple more seconds, and I'm going to end the polling. Well, okay, here we go. And I'm going to share. So we have 100% of our viewers say that culture is all of the above. It encompasses food, beliefs, and traditions. All right.
All right, that's great. I can tell you've thought about this before, all of you. So this is great. Or maybe we made our question way too easy. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe. That's okay. So I have a couple of definitions for you to think about culture. The first one here. Culture is the unwritten rules that define what is acceptable and usual for a group of people. And I highlighted usual because we want to keep in mind not to stereotype, right? What is usual doesn't mean that it is true of every person all the time. It's just kind of the norm in scientific terms. So we want to keep that in mind when we talk about culture. And as we go through, I think you'll see that Ellen and I, living in 2 different places in the US, have different cultures as well. More simply put, we can say if it helps to define our identity or how we live in the world, it's culture. And so if you think that culture is music, dress, holidays, customs, dance, architecture, you are right. It is all of those things. If you said that culture is food and drink, you are right. And by the way, Ellen, you were asking me how we get through the hot temperatures in Paraguay. It's this right here, tereré. It keeps people cool all summer long.
So I just want to, is this mate?
It is the mate herb, but they drink it cold with other herbs in it as well. So
nice.
Yes, right. It keeps you refreshed and hydrated through the hot days.
Great. What is the name of, I'm sorry, what is the name of that again?
Tereré.
Okay, good to know.
I'll make you some when you come to Paraguay again, Ellen.
Excellent.
So actually, that's a great jump off to think about culture, because it is just a drink, but it is so much more than that in Paraguay. It's how you drink it, who you share it with, and what you put in it. Everyone has their own different herbs that they put in it. And all of that is much deeper than just, oh, something that I drink, right? It has to do with the traditions of the country as well. So people that talk about culture use the image of an iceberg very often. And I'm pretty sure we don't have icebergs in Paraguay because, as I mentioned, it's pretty warm. But you probably all know that the iceberg looks huge above the surface of the water, but really it's very small compared to what is underneath the surface. And so we talk about culture in a very similar way. The things that we can see, the food and the drink and the dress and the music and the behaviors, are really just the surface. And the more important and very often more interesting part is what is underneath the surface, and that is what drives the visible part. So we're talking about your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, values, attitudes, and even the ways that we communicate are all under the surface, invisible parts of culture as well.
Great.
So moving into activities to teach culture, I have 3 different ideas and activities that I want to share with you all today. And maybe you've done these in your classroom as well. But we're going to talk briefly about using images, using music, and using video in your classroom to teach culture. So we'll get started talking about images. I really like pictures. Maybe you can tell from my PowerPoint presentation here.
No, you have some excellent photographs, I have to say. They're very engaging. Yeah.
Thank you. I cannot take credit for them, but I have been influenced by a lot of different presentation techniques like Pachakucha and TED Talks, where it's really, people use images more than words because images say so much. You can, there's emotion attached to them. And I like to use them for culture because I think it makes us a little bit more curious. We want to know more. It's not so concrete. I want to know in this image, where is this person going? It looks like they're on an adventure or something. So that helps us in our attitude toward looking at culture.
And you know what they say, Kim? A picture is worth 1,000 words.
A picture is worth 1,000 words. Yes. And for English learners, it's easier than 1,000 words too. So we can use them in our classrooms with our students, no matter what their level of English is. So I want to share with you a very simple game that I used during Thanksgiving celebrations here. I was working with a group of teens and we played some games and had an American style Thanksgiving celebration. And one of the things that we did was we played Thanksgiving True or False. And so we did this as an isolated game, but you also could use it as a pre-activity for a listening or reading assignment or activity in your classroom, or you could use it as a comprehension check after doing some other activity. So the rules very briefly are, you use images to ask true or false questions about a holiday or an event. You have teams of students working together to decide on the answer. And in my case, they had, I think it was 1 minute to talk about the answer, and then they had to decide if they wanted to say it was true or it was false. And then you can either give the answer immediately, which was how I played it, or you can do all of the questions at once and then have them read or listen to something to check and see what their answers were. So let me share with you a couple. So the model question that I gave them is a little silly, but it worked to get the point across. So I have this image here, and they had to decide if this statement is true or false. It's tradition to wear a turkey on Thanksgiving. So you can probably guess that.
I wonder how that went. It's an interesting look, okay?
It's an interesting look. Yeah, probably not the best idea, but an interesting look. This was just my model question so they could practice with the true or false and understand the instructions. But also because this is an image from a very popular sitcom in the US, Friends, that most of my students had seen, and some of them are obsessed with and really love. We also were able to talk a little bit about that, and especially this episode that people remembered watching. So one of our holidays coming up now is New Year. So can we do a couple of questions for our team around the world?
Yes, yes, definitely. Okay, so let me just get our next poll question up here. So we have two questions. So the first one is about New Year's Eve. And I'm going, so many, is this true? This is true or false? Many US Americans watch the ball drop to count down to the new year. Is that true or false? And we have another question, and this is about New Year's Day. On New Year's Day, many US Americans eat collard greens, black eyed peas, and cornbread to stay healthy. And that's another true or false question. So we're going to launch this poll. And again, people who are on Zoom, you can respond right in the platform. And if you are watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can respond in the comment section. So you could put number one, true or false, number two, true or false, whatever you think. So again, so our first question is about New Year's Eve. So many US Americans watch the ball drop to count down to the new year. Is that true or false? And then on New Year's Day, many US Americans eat collard greens, black eyed peas, and cornbread to stay healthy. Okay, so let's see, I'm going to give it another 10 seconds and let's see what we've got for comments here on Facebook. Okay, let's see. All righty, and I'm going to end the polling. So 100% of our respondents said that yes, many Americans watch the ball drop to count down to the new year. And for the second question on New Year's Day, 17% think it is true that many Americans eat collard greens, black-eyed peas, and cornbread to stay healthy. And 83% think no. Okay.
All right. Interesting. So looking at our first question, I'll ask you, Ellen, have you ever watched the ball drop to count down to the new year?
I have. I have watched it many times on TV. I have never watched it live. I am from the north where it is very cold that time of the year. And the idea of standing out in the cold for that long is not appealing. But I've watched it many, many times with friends as we count down the new year. And how about you, Kim? Have you watched it?
Yeah, the same for me. I've never seen it live. I think the original one is in New York City, but many cities now have a ball drop ceremony on New Year's Eve that people can go watch. I think I'm usually with friends or family at another location, but it's usually on TV as we're counting down the new year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how about the second question, Ellen? Have you ever eaten collard greens and black-eyed peas and cornbread on New Year's Day?
So again, so I am from the north. And that is not, those are actually not foods that we typically eat in the north. So no, that is not a custom that we normally do. That we actually, I've been with people and we do other things like we eat grapes, we eat 12 grapes. But how about you? Do you, and I know you're from the South or the Midwest and South. Do you eat collard greens, black-eyed peas, and cornbread to stay healthy?
Well, it's kind of a trick question. So yes, now that I live in the South, I do eat collard greens and black-eyed peas on New Year's Day because it is tradition, but it's not to stay healthy. It's for good luck and for money, for bringing wealth into your next year. So the green is supposed to represent the green of the dollar, the money, and the black-eyed peas represent the coins, and of course gold for cornbread. And besides wealth, it's just for luck for the new year. I did not eat this when I lived in Ohio, but now I do in the South. So
now that you're in South Carolina.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I like the idea of, it can't hurt, right?
It can't hurt. And it's pretty healthy food anyway, so it really can't hurt.
That's true. That's true. Okay.
Great. So you might notice on this slide that on the bottom, I put where I got this image from because this is not a free image. I wanted to let you know that I took it from this blog post. But in general, there are lots of free images available on the internet. And these are 3 different sites that I often get my pictures from. So I think this particular presentation, most of them come from Unsplash, but all of these offer free, meaning you don't have to pay for them, and they're also not copyrighted. So you can use them if you're doing a presentation, or I don't know, making materials that you're going to get things printed. You don't have to worry about copyright or paying for the images. So
great. I know. So here's 4 great resources for teachers, because I think a lot of times as teachers, we spend a lot of time looking for good photographs on the internet. And so I learned about these from Kim, and I've actually used one of these sites already. And we are posting all of these links. They'll be on the RELO Andy's Facebook page after the webinar. So you'll have all of this material if you're viewing. All right.
Great, good. So moving on from pictures, talking about using music to teach culture. I think everybody loves music. Everybody I know likes music, likes to talk about it and listen to it. And I think it's a great way to talk about different aspects of culture as well.
I agree. I think music is something everybody can share in, and no matter where you're from, yeah, it's a great way to bond people.
Yeah. So I want to share with you a unit that I have done recently. And we use a lot of different things in this rather long unit, but the theme of the unit was a road trip, taking a road trip across the United States. And so we were able to incorporate some video and music and maps and geography. But the song that we used several times throughout the unit is this song called "This Land Is Your Land" by Woody Guthrie. And you're familiar with the song, Ellen?
I am very familiar with this song. This is a song that brings me right back to my childhood. I love this song. I still like this song. I still like it. Yeah, it brings back very fond memories.
Almost everyone I know. Nice. Almost everyone I know sang this song at some point in elementary school in the US. So it's definitely a song that most people will recall. These US Americans will recall, oh yeah, I remember this song from whenever. So let me play a little bit of it for you so you can see. And I pulled this video from YouTube because I really like the images as well as the fact that you have the song with the lyrics on the screen. So let's play a little bit.
This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway. I saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me. I've roamed and rambled, and I followed my footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts, and all around me a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me.
All right, I'm gonna stop it, but we can share the link as well so you can watch the whole song later if you like.
Great, great, great. I love the visuals with that video as well. Do you want to, do you want to show it? There you go, you got the power.
Yeah, there we go.
That's beautiful, great. It was all I could do to not join in to sing.
You can sing along. So the last class I did it with, actually everyone was singing along after we did some activities with the song, and I think they enjoyed it as well. So I want to share with you a couple of the activities that we did with this song. We did a lot of vocabulary work, and then we did a cloze exercise where people had to listen and fill in the words into the lyrics. And then beyond that, we also talked about the meaning of the song. So we had some discussion questions. What do you think the author's opinion of the US is? What's the main idea of this song? So we really had a chance to talk a little bit about the meaning of the song. And the second half of the song, which we won't get to now, is actually a protest song. So we talked about that as well, and had some really great discussions.
Oh, that's great. Those are some great ways. I think the cloze activity is a really, that can be so good, and you can modify that depending on the level of your students. That's great. And we are posting this particular close activity also on the Facebook page, along with the other resources. So
Great.
just to have something ready to roll for tomorrow.
That's right. You could use it tomorrow. You also could take this and cut it into sentence strips and have people put in order the lyrics of the song as they're listening. That's another thing I like to do with music very often.
Great idea. Excellent.
Great. So the last topic is using videos to teach culture. And clearly we've already used them a little bit as we were talking about music and other things, but videos, I think, really capture our attention and our curiosity. And so especially now in our current day and age where everything is visual, everything is videos and images on the internet, on our phones all day long. So I think it captures people's attention and again, brings you back to that curiosity to know a little bit more about the culture.
Yes, great.
So again, in our road trip unit, I want to share with you a little piece of a video that we used for that. And this is a video from the website Voices of America, which has a whole series of videos. Hang on one second. Sorry. It has a whole series of videos that sorry, I can't talk and click at the same time. I got it.
No, that's not right. No. Voice of America, that's a great resource for so many things. Yeah.
It is, and it has a whole series of videos that I didn't use the whole video in class because this particular video, although it's only 5 minutes long, you can see has a grammar lesson involved, and we didn't get into all that. I just use it as a setup for the lesson for what is a road trip and what does it mean when we do that. So let me play you just a little piece of this video.
You know I love Washington, D.C., but I want to see more of the United States. My roommate Marcia and I will be on vacation at the same time. So we are going on a road trip together. Hi, Marcia.
Hi.
I packed my bags and I am ready to go.
Did you make a list of all the places you want to see?
I did. I want to see New York City and the Statue of Liberty.
And I want to see Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore.
And don't forget the Grand Canyon.
Let's not forget California's Redwood Forest. There are so many places to see.
We will be driving for a long time, so we might get bored.
Bored? No way. We can talk.
Or not talk.
We can play word games. We can sing. You know, Marcia, our trip is like that famous American song. This land is your land. This land is my land.
From California to New York Island.
From the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. Woohoo!
They are very excited about their road trip.
That looks like they're going to have a lot of fun. I hope they have a lot of time for their road trip.
I hope so too. And actually, that is a really good intro to what we did with this video in our class. One of the things I had my class do was take a look at a map and mark the places that these ladies say they wanted to go on their road trip and think about how much time they needed to take that road trip. And when they started looking at the distance between, for example, New York City and the Grand Canyon, they realized they needed a really long vacation to be able to do this road trip.
Yes. I think that's another misconception about the US, that things are closer together than they really are. Because I have friends that want to go, from New York to Washington, D.C. and think that's just a couple of hours. It looks close on the map.
It does, yes. Yes. So we ended our unit with a really interactive activity of project-based learning where my students worked in teams to plan their own road trip of the US. And I won't go into all the details because those are going to vary, but if you wanted to do something like that in your classroom, they had to plan several places that they wanted to visit. They had to use a map and see how long it would take for them to do the road trip they wanted to do. And they had to decide on the best route to take to get there, more or less, which made most sense for them to do their road trip. And they had to decide what season to go in. So we looked at a lot of geography and weather and cultural things as well.
Well, that's great. And it brings in a lot of critical thinking as well. Lots of things to consider.
Yeah, we had a really good time with that. So I think this is already on the RELO Andes website, but just as a reminder, the Voices of America page has a lot of different resources, including a podcast and these Let's Learn English classes, and lots of short videos about movies and about news and about everyday things. So it's a really good resource to use, and it's all free.
That's great. Excellent. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
and again, that will also, this link will also be on the RELO page with all of the resources that Kim is sharing with us all together.
Great. One final resource, which again, I think you can access from the RELO Andes page, but since we talked about talking about holidays and celebrations, this resource called Celebrate, I have used several times just in the past few months. And you can download the PDF for free, and it has a page or two of a reading about all of the different holidays and celebrations in the US. So you can use that in your class as well. And since we talked about music, this one here at the bottom called Sing Out Loud, Traditional Songs, has the MP3s of all of the songs that you can download and lesson plans to go with them and how to use them in your class as well.
Wow, great. All righty. So what do you think? Is it time for another question?
I think one more question would be great.
All righty. So
you have lots of choices with this question.
Yes. So for question 3, which of these activities would you like to try in your classroom? So images, using photographs, and I think you gave us many ways that we could use that to generate language or to do as like a warm-up activity. Music, and we have the close activity that you used with the music, but there's many ways you could use music in the classroom. Video, and again, the specific activities of the close, the true or false game, reading and discussing, and project-based learning, like planning a road trip. Okay, so I'm going to launch the poll. And if people want to respond in the comment sections, and if people want to in Zoom, you can go right into the platform. Okay, so I can see people already have responded that they are using all of them. I have a couple of responses here. Okay, we're going to give a little bit more time. Okay, lots of answers coming in. And let's look over here on Facebook. All righty, so, okay, I am going to end the polling in just a couple of seconds. Okay, it looks like a lot of people, 71% are very interested in the true and false games based on images, and 57% are interested in trying project-based learning based on a video.
Great.
And then 43 are also indicating that they're very interested in the closed reading activity based on music. Okay, so it looks like people are looking, I'm sorry, hold on, I'm just trying to get rid of, people are interested in trying all of these. Really nice activities that you've presented.
Good. And obviously, all of these activities can be changed to match any kind of theme that you're using. It doesn't have to be Thanksgiving or New Year's. It can be any kind of theme that you're teaching in your classroom. You can add a little bit of cultural piece with some of these games and readings.
Right. Well, Kim, I think this was real. I found this very interesting, and it makes me want to go and do some of these activities with students in the classroom myself. So I want to thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your resources with all of us. And again, for folks listening, all of these links will be on the RELO Andes Facebook page. And I want to just remind everybody that our next RELO Andes webinar will be in January, on January 23rd. So we're hoping you will tune in then. And I want to thank everyone, and I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season.
Yes, everyone, all hope you have very happy holidays, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Great. Oh, you know what? We do have a couple of minutes, and we can take a few questions from people who are listening. So if you do have questions, feel free, you can type them into the chat boxes or in the dialogue boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we have a couple more minutes. So go ahead, if anybody has any questions, feel free to type away. And I actually do have a question here from someone who is wondering, that he wrote, my students are beginners. Can I use this material with beginning students?
Yeah, I think that's a really common question, because I like music, for example, I like a lot. And I've had a lot of teachers tell me, well, but my students can't understand the lyrics, so I can't use music. But I would say that you can use music with all levels of students. If you have little kids, for example, you can take a song like this and you could do a movement game with them where they're not focused so much on the lyrics, but they are still hearing it and they're still hearing the song. There's a lot of repeated lines in music, and so you could maybe teach 1 or 2 lines that they can sing along with. Mm-hmm. Or one thing that I like to do with all ages, if I have beginner students, is put the lyrics of a song, maybe it's just 1 word, or maybe it's 1 line of the song, on cards, little flashcards or posters. Mm-hmm. And people have to listen to the song. And when they hear their word that they're holding, or their line, their phrase, they have to hold it up or stand up or jump in the air, depends on your age and your energy level of your students. But so that way they're listening very specifically for certain words or phrases. That way they don't have to understand the meaning of the whole song, but they can still be practicing their English and their listening skills.
I think that's great. And I think anything that gets students up and moving a bit is also great. Good. Yes. Oh, that sounds like that would be fun. We have another question that came in for suggestions of other project-based activities that you could do with video or with music.
Yeah, I love project-based learning, and very often the project comes to my mind before the video or the music does. So of course, off the top of my head, it's harder to think about, but
I'm thinking for students to make maybe either a public service announcement, or if I'm thinking on the road trip theme, to do a brochure of a place that they visited.
So I've definitely used that before, having them research 1 location. So maybe they found 3 cool images they liked. I have them choose 1 of the places and imagine that they were the park ranger at that park and had to talk a little bit about the area. So they have to do their own research a little bit and figure out the location and the temperature and what animals might someone see if they're there, what safety might they need to think about, where they have to look into a certain location. Also with the road trip idea, I've done, I think we used Disney World once, where people had to plan a trip there. And this was we were trying to do some integration with STEM, with some math and some other things. And so people actually had to plan a budget to do a trip. So they had, they were given a card with their identity. So you're a family of 4, and with these age kids, plan a fun trip of 5 days, and here's your budget. Or you're a group of 3 friends, and you know, so people had to think for this particular group, what would be a fun trip at this particular location. And they got so into it, even choosing the restaurants that they would go to, and figuring out which hotel they wanted to stay in to fit within the budget and plan a fun trip for their group that they had to plan for. So I had them work as travel agents once as well. So half the team were representing the group, and the other half of the team class were representing travel agents. And so they had to figure out together, asking questions of each other, which would be a good trip for their group.
Oh, that's excellent. And I love that idea. So that's a great way to set up, you know, authentically using language and asking and answering questions and giving information. That's great. I love that. Nice. We do have another question from someone who is wondering if you could recommend, is there any type of music that you recommend?
I think it depends a lot on your age group and what you're trying to do with the music. So Woody Guthrie is a very typical folk song. So I do like to use that kind of music. And that one makes you think a lot when you get into it, and it's a protest song. So it can really help with critical thinking skills and that kind of thing. I'm not a huge fan personally of listening to country music. That's just my opinion, but it is great in the classroom because a lot of country music tells a story. And so I've done projects where people have to listen to the music and draw or write like a comic strip of the song, or what would happen next after this verse, kind of thing. So you can do a lot of fun things with country music, with folk music. And I also like to use music without lyrics when people are working sometimes. Just if they're writing, you can use it as a writing prompt, or you can use it just to have something playing to keep people focused.
Yeah, that's
What
nice.
About you, Ellen? What kind of music do you like to use?
I think country music, I kind of agree. I actually listen to it a little bit more now. And but I think the stories that the music tell lend itself to so many activities. Like so very rich storytelling in that music. Yeah, I agree. I'm trying to think. And I mean, and pop music to some degree, sometimes I find the language isn't often as rich, but it depends. It just depends. And it also, like you said, it depends on the students. Because if this is a song that they're listening to, but maybe they don't really understand the lyrics, then there's a lot of engagement because they do want to understand the lyrics and know how to pronounce the words.
That's true. And I think so it depends again what you want to do. Sometimes music is really just to energize my class. So I'll find something that I know they like. So if I'm working with teenagers, I'll tend more toward the pop music just to get them engaged and listening and energized.
Yeah, great. So I don't see any other questions coming in, but we do have a lot of positive comments coming in. People telling me, oh, these are fantastic ideas. Let me just read one. Fantastic ideas. Teaching about culture actually helps foster empathy as well as content. Totally agree with that statement. And people are loving the ideas for the project-based learning. So great. So Kim, again, I want to thank you for joining us today and sharing all of your information and your resources. And I think we're going to have you come back.
Yeah, I would love to. If anybody wants to shoot me, tell me their theme and come, we need some project-based learning ideas. Come find my Facebook page, English Language Fellow Paraguay. I love to think of different projects to use in class. So I'll be happy to shoot some ideas your way.
Let's put that also on the list of resources too.
Sure.
All right.
Sounds
That's
great.
Great. Okay, so again, folks, hopefully we'll see you next month, January 23rd, for our next RELO Andy's webinar. I want to thank you all for tuning in, and until next month. All righty.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for being here, everybody.
Thank you. Take
Thank you,
care.
Ellen. Bye-bye.
Bye.